Mommy said wait by the
Mommy
gate.
said wait by the
Max
gate.
whispered it to himself like a prayer. His backpack straps digging into
Mommy
his
said wait
shoulders
by the
as he
gate.
stood outside Lincoln Elementary.
She was never late.
The autumn wind bit at his cheeks. Other kids poured past him laughing, shouting, climbing into cars that smelled like fast food and air freshener. But Selena wasn't there yet. She was never late. Not once in 5 years. Max checked the street again. His stomach tightened. Then the black van pulled up. It had no windows in the back. The side door slid open before it even stopped moving. A man in a gray hoodie leaned out, smiling too wide. Your mom
sent me, buddy.
She's
stuck
at work. Max stepped back.
I don't know you.
She said you'd say that. The man's smile
She
didn't
said
move.
to tell you about the
She said to tell you about the purple dinosaur cup.
The one you broke
The one you broke
Tuesday.
last Tuesday. Max froze. Only his mom knew about that. He'd hidden the pieces under his bed. Come on, kid. She's waiting. Max's legs moved before his brain caught up. He climbed in. The door slammed shut. The van peeled away from the curb, and the last thing Max saw through the tinted front window was the gate where he was supposed to wait. Where his mother would arrive in 4 minutes, heart already pounding, key still in her hand. Selena's scream split the air outside Lincoln Elementary at 3:47 p.m. She ran through the parking lot, shouting Max's name until her voice cracked. Teachers came outside. Parents stared. A security guard tried to calm her down, but Selena shoved past him, checking every corner, every bush, every car. Her hands shook so hard she couldn't dial her phone. When she finally got through to 911, her words came out in bursts. Kidnapped. My son. 8 years old. Brown jacket. Please. The police arrived 20 minutes later. They asked her questions she couldn't answer. Did Max have any enemies? Did she owe anyone money? Was there a custody dispute? Selena wanted to scream that none of that mattered. That her son was gone. That every second they spent talking was a second Max was further away. But she answered. She cooperated. She gave them everything. Photos. Height. Weight. The shoes he was wearing. And then they told her to go home and wait. We'll call you, the officer said, his voice flat, like he'd said it 1,000 times before. Selena didn't move. You're not going to look for him right now? Ma'am, we've issued an alert. We're doing everything we can. Before we continue, let me ask you a question. Where are you watching us from? Drop your country and the time in the comments. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to get darker than you think. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now let's get back to Selena, because what she's about to do will change everything. 3 days passed. Selena didn't sleep. She printed flyers and taped them to every pole, every window, every wall she could find. She went back to the school and questioned every parent, every teacher, every kid who would talk to her. Most of them looked away. A few said they were sorry. One mother pulled her daughter closer when Selena approached, like grief was contagious. The police called once. They said they were following leads. Selena asked what leads. They said they couldn't discuss an ongoing investigation. She asked if they'd found anything at all. The line went quiet for 3 seconds. Then the officer said, "We're doing our best, ma'am." Selena hung up. She sat on the floor of Max's room and pressed her face into his pillow. It still smelled like him. Like soap and grass and the coconut oil she rubbed into his hair every Sunday. She thought about his laugh. The way he mispronounced spaghetti. The way he held her hand crossing the street even though he said he was too old for that. She thought about how no one was really looking for him. On the 4th day, Selena heard a name. She was standing in line at a corner store when 2 men behind her started talking in low voices. One of them said something about the South Side. The other one laughed and said, "You think the cops are gonna touch that? Man, Black Kong owns half this city. Police won't even look his way." Selena turned around. Who's Black Kong? Both men went silent. One of them looked at her like she just asked him to jump off a bridge. "Lady, you don't want to know." "I do." "No, you don't." He walked past her and out the door. But Selena did want to know. She spent the next 6 hours asking questions. Most people ignored her. A few told her to stop talking. One old woman grabbed her wrist and whispered, "That man is not someone you go looking for. You hear me? You leave that alone." Selena didn't leave it alone. By midnight, she had an address. A high-rise downtown. 30 floors of black glass and steel. No signs. No names. Just a building that everyone seemed to know about and no one wanted to talk about. She stood outside it at 6 a.m. the next morning, her hands stuffed in her jacket pockets, her eyes burning from sleepless nights. The front doors were locked. A security guard sat behind a desk inside, flipping through his phone. Selena knocked on the glass. He looked up, frowned, and waved her away. She knocked again. Harder. He stood up, walked to the door, and cracked it open. We're closed. I need to see Black Kong. The guard's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. No, you don't. My son was kidnapped. The police won't help me. I heard he has power. I need his help. Lady, go home. I'm not leaving. The guard sighed and shut the door in her face. Selena didn't move. She stood there for 2 hours. People in suits walked past her, glancing at her like she was a stain on the sidewalk. She didn't care. At 8:15, the guard opened the door again. You're still here. I'm not leaving until I see him. You don't get it. He doesn't see people. Especially not people like you. Then tell him I'll wait. The guard stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out a radio and said something in Korean. A voice crackled back. The guard looked at Selena again, and this time there was something close to pity in his face. Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. They took her up in an elevator that didn't have buttons. Just a keycard slot and a camera in the corner. The guard stood beside her, silent, his arms crossed. Selena's reflection stared back at her from the polished steel doors. She looked like hell. Her eyes were red. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She hadn't changed clothes in 2 days. But she didn't care what she looked like. She cared about Max. The elevator stopped on the 30th floor. The doors opened into a hallway that smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Everything was black. Black walls. Black floors. Black doors. The guard led her to the end of the hall and stopped in front of a set of double doors. He knocked twice, waited, then pushed them open. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city. A desk sat in the center of the room, made of dark wood that looked older than the building itself. And behind that desk sat a man who didn't look up when she entered. Black Hong was younger than Selena expected. Maybe early 30s. His suit was perfectly tailored, charcoal gray with a black shirt underneath. No tie. His hair was slicked back, and his hands rested on the desk like he was posing for a portrait. He was reading something on a tablet. He didn't acknowledge her presence for a full 10 seconds. Then he looked up. His eyes were cold. Not cruel. Just empty. Like he'd seen too much to be surprised by anything anymore. You have 2 minutes, he said. His voice was calm, almost bored. Selena stepped forward. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to stay upright. My son was taken 5 days ago. The police won't help. I heard you have power. I'm begging you. Please help me find him. Black Hong didn't blink. Why would I do that? Because I have nothing else. No money. No connections. No one will listen to me. But you people are afraid of you. That means you can do things they can't. And what makes you think I care about your son? Selena's throat tightened. She wanted to scream at him, to grab him by the collar and shake him until he understood what it felt like to lose everything. But she didn't. She dropped to her knees instead, right there on the black floor. Her hands pressed flat against the cold surface. Please, she whispered. He's 8 years old. He's all I have. I'll do anything. I'll work for you. I'll owe you. Just please help me find him. Black Kong leaned back in his chair. He studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at the guard. Get her up. The guard stepped forward and pulled Selena to her feet. She didn't resist. Black Kong stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. He stared out at the city like he was deciding whether it was worth saving. What's your son's name? He asked. Max Carter. And you think someone took him? Not that he ran away. He's 8. He wouldn't run. Kids run all the time. Not my son. Black Hong turned to face her. Where was he taken? Outside his school. Lincoln Elementary. Witnesses saw a black van. No plates. And the police? They're not doing anything. I can feel it. They don't care. Black Kang's jaw tightened. Just slightly. Just enough for Selena to notice. He walked back to his desk and pressed a button on the phone. A voice answered immediately. Black Hong spoke in Korean, fast and sharp. The voice on the other end responded, and Black Hong hung up. He looked at Selena again. A child was taken on my territory. That's a problem. Your territory? This city has rules. People who break them answer to me. He paused. I'll find your son, but not because you asked. Because someone violated my code. Selena's chest tightened. She didn't understand what he meant, but she didn't care. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Black Hong walked past her toward the door. Go home. I'll contact you when I know something. How will you contact me? I didn't give you my number. He stopped and glanced back at her. I already have it. Selena's blood went cold. But before she could ask how, the guard was already leading her out of the office. 2 days later, Selena's phone rang at 3 a.m. She jolted awake, her heart slamming against her ribs. She grabbed the phone off the nightstand and answered without checking the caller ID. Hello. We found him. Black Hang's voice. Calm. Clinical. Selena sat up so fast she almost dropped the phone. Where? Is he okay? He's alive. Injured. We're taking him to St. Michael's Hospital now. Meet me there. Injured? What happened? Is he? The line went dead. Selena threw on clothes and ran out the door. She didn't bother locking it. She drove 20 miles over the speed limit the entire way, her hands shaking on the wheel, her mind racing through every worst-case scenario. Injured. What did that mean? A broken arm? A concussion? Internal bleeding? She screeched into the hospital parking lot and sprinted through the emergency room doors. A nurse tried to stop her, but Selena shoved past her. Max Carter. Where is he? Ma'am, you need to calm down. Where is my son? A man in scrubs appeared from a hallway. He was tall with graying hair and tired eyes. Are you Selena Carter? Yes. Where's Max? I'm Dr. Stanley Dean. Your son is in surgery right now. He has internal bleeding. We're doing everything we can. Selena's knees buckled. The doctor caught her before she hit the ground. He's going to die, isn't he? We're trying to stabilize him, but he needs a blood transfusion. His blood type is AB negative. It's rare. We don't have any in stock. Take mine. I'm his mother. We already tested you. You're not a match. Selena's world tilted. That's impossible. I'm his mother. I know, but blood type doesn't always match between parent and child. We need to find a donor fast. A voice came from behind her. Test me. Selena turned. Black Hong stood in the hallway, his suit jacket gone, his sleeves rolled up. Dr. Dean looked between them, confused. Who are you? The doctor asked. Test me, Black Hong repeated. Dr. Dean hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. 15 minutes later, Dr. Dean came back. He looked at Black Hong, then at Selena. His face was unreadable. You're a match. We can use your blood. Black Hong didn't react. He just rolled up his sleeve further and walked toward the donation room. Selena stood frozen in the hallway, her mind spinning. A match. How was that possible? The surgery took 4 hours. Selena sat in the waiting room the entire time. Her hands clasped so tight her knuckles turned white. Black Hong sat across from her, silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. Neither of them spoke. When Dr. Dean finally emerged, Selena shot to her feet. Is he okay? He's stable. The transfusion worked. He's going to need time to recover, but he'll be fine. Selena's legs gave out. She collapsed into the chair and sobbed so hard her entire body shook. Dr. Dean put a hand on her shoulder. You can see him in a few minutes. As the doctor turned to leave, Black Hong stood. Doctor. Dr. Dean stopped. I need to speak with you. Privately. Dr. Dean glanced at Selena, then nodded. Follow me. They walked down the hall and into an empty consultation room. Dr. Dean closed the door. Black Hong didn't sit. He stood with his arms crossed, his face carved from stone. What is it? Dr. Dean asked. The blood. It was a perfect match. Yes. You saved that boy's life. How perfect? Dr. Dean hesitated. I don't understand the question. Don't play games with me, doctor. How perfect was the match? Dr. Dean's eyes shifted. He looked at the door, then back at Black Hong. It was a genetic match. Not just compatible. Identical markers. Black Hang's jaw clenched. Say it clearly. Dr. Dean swallowed. That child is your son. Black Hong didn't move. He stood there in the sterile consultation room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and let the words sink into his bones. That child is your son. He thought back to 9 years ago. A one-night encounter with a woman whose name he'd barely remembered the next morning. A mistake made in a moment of weakness. He'd never thought about it again. Until now. Dr. Dean cleared his throat. I thought you should know. Legally, I can't disclose this to anyone else without your permission. But medically, it's important information. Does she know? Black Hang's voice was barely above a whisper. Not yet. I haven't told her anything. Black Hong turned and walked out of the room without another word. He moved down the hallway like a man in a trance, his mind racing through calculations and consequences. A son. He had a son. And that son had been taken, hurt, Nearly killed because of the world Black Kong lived in. Because of the enemies he'd made. Because of the power he wielded. He stopped outside Max's hospital room. Through the window, he could see Selena sitting beside the bed, holding Max's hand. The boy was unconscious, his small body hooked up to machines that beeped steadily. Selena's head was bowed, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Black Kong watched her for a long moment. She had no idea. No idea that the man who'd saved her son was the same man who'd created him. He walked away before she could see him. Outside the hospital, Black Kong climbed into the back of a black sedan. His driver didn't ask questions. They never did. Black Kong pulled out his phone and made a call. It was answered on the first ring. Mother. Beatrice Kang's voice came through sharp and clear. I heard about the child. Is he alive? Yes. Good. Who took him? Daniel Lee. There was a pause. Then Beatrice laughed. It was a cold sound like ice cracking. That fool. He thinks he can challenge us by taking children. He was using the boy as leverage. He wanted territory. And what does he have now? Nothing. Yet. Then fix it. Beatrice's voice hardened. No one touches children in this city. No one. You know the code. Handle it. The line went dead. Black Kong stared at his phone for a moment, then made another call. This one was answered by a man whose voice sounded like gravel. Yes. Find Daniel Lee. Bring him to me. Alive. Understood. Black Kong hung up and closed his eyes. The code was simple. You could kill. You could steal. You could destroy. But you did not harm children. Ever. Daniel Lee had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. 3 days later, Selena brought Max home. He was weak, pale, and scared, but he was alive. Selena had set up a bed for him in the living room so she could watch him at all times. She barely slept. Every time he coughed or shifted, she was there, adjusting his pillows, checking his temperature, whispering that everything was going to be okay. On the 4th day, there was a knock at the door. Selena opened it to find Black Kong standing on her porch. He was wearing a different suit this time. Black. Always black. His expression was unreadable. Can I come in? He asked. Selena hesitated, then stepped aside. Black Kong walked into her small living room and glanced at Max, who was asleep on the couch. For a moment, something flickered across Black Kang's face. Something almost human. Then it was gone. I paid your medical bills, he said. All of them. Selena blinked. What? Why? Because I said I'd find your son. I did. The rest is just cleanup. I can't accept that. I don't have any way to pay you back. I'm not asking you to. Selena crossed her arms. Then what do you want? Black Kong looked at her for a long moment. I need to tell you something. About Max. Selena's stomach dropped. What about him? The blood transfusion. It wasn't just a match. It was a genetic match. Selena's face went blank. What does that mean? It means I'm his father. The room went silent. Selena stared at him like he'd just spoken a foreign language. Then she laughed. It was a sharp, bitter sound. That's impossible. 9 years ago, you were working at a hotel downtown. We met at the bar. Selena's laughter died. Her face went pale. She remembered. She remembered everything. The expensive suit. The confident smile. The way he bought her a drink and talked to her like she mattered. She'd been lonely. Exhausted. And for one night, she'd let herself forget about the bills and the stress and the empty apartment waiting for her. She'd let herself feel wanted. And then he was gone. You didn't even tell me your name, she whispered. I know. You just left. I know. Selena's hands balled into fists. And now you show up 9 years later and tell me you're his father? After I raised him alone? After I worked 2 jobs to keep him fed? After I cried myself to sleep wondering if I was doing enough? I didn't know he existed. That doesn't make it okay. I know. Selena's voice cracked. What do you want from me? I want to be in his life. Why? Because you feel guilty? Because you think you owe me something? Because he's my son. Black Kang's voice was steady, but there was something underneath it. Something raw. And because someone took him to get to me. That can't happen again. Selena shook her head. You can't just walk in here and demand to be a father. That's not how this works. I'm not demanding anything. I'm asking. And if I say no? Black Kong looked at Max again. The boy was still asleep, his chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. Then I'll still protect him. From a distance. But I'd rather do it up close. Selena was silent for a long time. She thought about Max. about the life she wanted for him, about the dangers that came with a man like Black Kong. But she also thought about the fact that Black Kong had saved him, had paid the bills, had kept his word. I need time, she said finally. Take all the time you need. Black Kong turned to leave, but Selena's voice stopped him. One more thing. He looked back. What happened to the people who took him? Black Kang's expression darkened. They won't hurt anyone else. 2 weeks later, news broke that Daniel Lee had been found in an alley on the south side. He was alive but broken. His organization had been dismantled overnight. His men had vanished. His properties had been seized. And Daniel Lee himself had been left with nothing but a warning carved into his memory. Children are off limits. Black Kong never confirmed his involvement. He didn't need to. Over the next few months, Black Kong started showing up. Not every day, but enough. He'd bring groceries, pay bills, sit quietly in the corner while Max did his homework. He didn't try to force a relationship. He just existed in the space, steady and present. Max was wary at first, but slowly he warmed up. He started asking questions. Where do you work? Do you like basketball? Can you help me with my math? And Black Kong answered. Simply. Honestly. Selena watched it all unfold with a mixture of fear and hope. She didn't trust Black Kong. Not fully. But she couldn't deny that he was trying. And more importantly, Max was smiling again. One evening after Max had gone to bed, Selena and Black Kong sat on the porch. The air was cool, the street quiet. Selena wrapped her arms around herself and stared at the sky. This isn't a fairy tale, she said. We're not going to fall in love and live happily ever after. I know, Black Kong said. I'm only doing this for Max. Not for you. I know. Selena looked at him. But I'm not going to keep him from you. As long as you keep him safe. Black Kong nodded. I will. Inside the house, Max stirred in his sleep. He rolled over, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, and whispered something too soft to hear. Selena stood and walked back inside. Black Kong stayed on the porch for a moment longer, staring at the door. Then he stood and walked to his car. He didn't look back. Months turned into a year. Max grew taller, stronger. He laughed more. He asked Black Kong to come to his soccer games. He called him by his first name, never Dad. And Black Kong never corrected him. Selena and Black Kong learned to coexist. Not as lovers, not even as friends, but as two people bound by a shared responsibility. And on quiet nights when Max was asleep and the world was still, Selena would think about how close she'd come to losing him. How desperation had driven her to a man she didn't know. How that man had turned out to be more than she'd expected. Not a hero. Not a villain. Just a man trying to do right by a child he never knew he had. And maybe she thought that was enough. Because at the end of the day, Max was safe. Max was loved. And that was all that mattered. So what do you think? Was Selena right to let Black Kong into Max's life? Would you have made the same choice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you would have done differently. And if this story hit you in the chest like it hit me, smash that like button and subscribe because we've got more stories coming that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about family, power, and what it means to protect the ones you love. I'll see you in the next one.